Coaching in archery. Assessment. Assess each archer's current level of archery skill to determine the likelihood of success. Examine his or her prior experience, physical health, motor control, attitude toward his or her impairment, and willingness to participate. Coaching positions. During the observation process, the instructor should record any possible type corrections and be ready to provide supportive and constructive input to the archer, as well as to adapt equipment to the archer's unique needs as required. The mentor can cycle through the following coaching roles while watching the archer. Position 1. The coach ought to stand face-to-face with the bowman, fair behind the shooting line. This is often the most excellent position to observe an archer take his or her first shot. The coach may utilize this position to assess an archer's hold, arm quality, capacity to draw the bow, and releasing the bowstring. From this position, the coach can watch the position, knock, hold and grip, posture/alignment, raise the bow, draw, anchor, and release/follow through. Position 2. Between the waiting line and the shooting line, the coach should stand behind the archer, looking over the draw arm elbow. You can see the archer's vertical stance in this plane by standing behind their elbow. Some archers are unable to achieve true vertical alignment or align their holding arm with the arrow. The coach can, however, teach the athlete how to maintain true vertical alignment on a consistent basis. The coach will monitor posture/alignment, anchor, and release/follow through from this coaching role. Position 3. The coach should take a position behind the archer, facing the back. From this vantage point, you can be able to improve the archer's chair, leaning brace, or shoulder position. The coach will monitor posture/alignment, lift the bow, and move to hold release/follow through from this location. Position 4. The archer should be 15 feet behind the coach. Standing at a distance allows the coach to see the archer's whole shape, as well as his or her body balance. The coach will monitor posture or alignment, as well as release or follow through from this role. Coach's role. Coaches play a critical role in their archers' continued growth. If the interactive environment is beneficial or negative is also determined by how coaches connect with the archer and the atmosphere they create. Coaches should take a constructive attitude to coach as a result of this. This should be based on common sense and have a few fundamental concepts. A good coach will pay attention to every detail of your body from your posture to your elbow positioning. In a sport as precise as archery, these are the things that are most important. At higher levels, archery coaches will have breathing techniques and other small strategies to keep archers calm under pressure and to have them be able to shoot their best. 1. Integrity. Coaches must not allow archers to break the rules established by the official association or federation that governs the sport. They should denounce such actions outright and urge archers to follow the rules in spirit. 2. Respect. To earn respect, you must first demonstrate it, and when you do, make sure it is true and sincere. Give sincere praise. Coaches will lose their reputation with the archers they are coaching if they are not honest in their praise and motivation. 3. Dignity. A fundamental obligation of becoming a coach is to protect the integrity of the athlete. There shall be no discrimination between participants on the basis of race, sex, ethnic origin, faith, philosophical or political opinion, marital status, or any other factor that would be offensive or irritate anyone the coach could come into contact with. 4. Confidentiality. When a coach and an archer have a good working relationship, a great deal of sensitive information is exchanged and even registered. It is important that the coach and archer agree to which of this data is considered confidential. This information must not be shared with others without the archer's or express parents' permission. Adaptations for equipment and accessories. 1. Choice of bow. The bow you choose for each archer must be compatible with their ability to handle, grasp, and draw the bowstring. Archers have the option of shooting a compound or recurve bow. 1A. Compound bow. Most compound bows are short and comfortably accommodate the seated archer. The maximum draw weight is thus the most important adaptive factor. Some youth bow models have a standardized draw length and a draw weight that can be adjusted as low as 10 pounds, allowing several archers to use the same bow. Archers would have to decide between a universal draw length bow and a draw length bow that can be adjusted. Compound bows with adjustable draw lengths are more difficult to choose since they must match the person firing them. A compound bow with an adjustable draw length should not be purchased until the archer has mastered the fundamentals of shooting. 1B. Recurve bow. The first step in choosing a recurve bow is to fit the bow's length to the archer's height. In the seated position, the adaptive archer will need to use a shorter length recurve bow. The archer would be able to adapt to the location and movement required to draw and release the bowstring as a result of this. When an archer uses a wheelchair, the bow should be short enough to avoid hitting the ground when properly carried. Match the draw weight to the archer's strength after deciding the correct bow length. Start with a draw weight of 10 to 20 pounds when choosing a recurve bow. 2. Release aid selection. Depending on the archer's release hand feature, there are two major categories for bowstring release. If the archer has normal hand function, he or she may use a finger tab, a shooting glove, or a regular handheld mechanical release aid to aim with their fingers. 2A. Finger tabs and gloves. A finger tab is a mechanism that helps archers grip the bowstring. This flat leather device fits between the fingers and the bowstring to keep them safe when drawing, holding, and releasing the bowstring. A finger glove, which covers each finger individually, is another alternative. 2B. Mechanical release aids. Archers that are missing a hand or arm may be able to use mechanical release aids. Finding the best match for any given adaptation requires creativity. It is strongly recommended that you collaborate with others and use outside resource professionals such as recreation therapists. Mechanical release aids are used in archery in a variety of ways. They can be classified into a few different categories and adapted as needed. 2B1. Wrist strap caliper or trigger release aid. Many new compound target archers use a wrist release assist with an index finger trigger that triggers the release. For adapted archers who don't have full hand use, the wrist brace is ideal. 2B2. Thumb release aid. Most thumb release aids come with trigger extensions that can be adjusted to fit the archer's hand size. For those who need it, a pinky finger trigger is also available. 2B3. Back tension release aid. When the handle rotates, the back tension or hinge type release unlocks. Most archers produce this rotation with their back muscles, but some adaptive archers use their chin or mouth movement to enable the release, which is attached to their body by a strap. 3. Mouth tab. Many archers who have lost one hand or arm elect to use the bowstring-mounted mouth tab. This is usually a piece of heavy nylon strap that can be tied to the bowstring and held between two molars so the archer can draw the bowstring, hold and release the arrow. A bow sight can be easily adapted for use by these archers. 3A. Strap-on release aid. The wrist release aid has been modified so that these archers can use their chin to trigger the release. Archers may also use a mouth-triggered triggering mechanism. 3B. Shoulder-mounted release aid. Many release aids include a wrist strap, but archers who must adjust to using only one hand can only need a shoulder-mounted release aid. The archer can use her chin to unlock the hinge-style release, as seen in the picture on the right. The release itself is commercially available, but the coach and athlete customize the harness and release to their needs. The actual release is commercially available, but the harness and release the system is customized by the instructor and athlete. Disability classifications. Classification W2. Archers in the W2 category shoot from a wheelchair, but have no upper body disabilities. As a result, using standard coaching techniques is usually not a concern since the muscles used in archery are unlikely to be harmed. The coach, on the other hand, should always strive to be on the same level as the archer rather than standing above them, as this can be intimidating. The majority of these archers, especially those with paraplegia, will struggle with balance. As a result, it's important that the coach spends time making sure the archer is receiving the best support possible from the wheelchair. There are a few things to keep in mind. 1. Check that the archer has engaged all brakes so that the chair does not wobble when drawing or releasing the bow. 2. Make sure the back of the chair's fabric isn't too tight. If the back of the chair has some slack, the archer will tuck himself between the uprights for protection and to keep the chair from sliding sideways. 3. The archer must sit on a comfortable cushion to avoid developing pressure sores. If the fabric beneath this has too much slack, the archer will struggle to maintain a good upright position. Underneath the cushion, a thin piece of the board may be useful. 4. Despite the fact that International Paralympic Committee rules state that the back of the wheelchair should not be too high, some archers' backs are too low to provide any support, so this should be tested and elevated if necessary. The back of the archer's chair is well below the IPC minimum, but it is at a sufficient height to provide him with some protection. Classification W1. Archers who shoot from a wheelchair, but have other limitations in their arms and hands are eligible to compete in the W1 class. They can use compound bows in a different class than open compound users, but they must have the same form of sighting arrangement as recurve bows. Many archers in this class, even with a compound, are unable to exceed 90 meters, so they fire the women's distances, or 70/60 rather than 90/70 in international competition. The weight restriction for compound bows in this class differs from that of FIDA compound bows. A man's peak weight may be 45 pounds, while a woman's peak weight may be 35 pounds. This is to ensure that those who are unable to pull the 60-pound maximum weight are not penalized. The main additional difficulty these archers face is a lack of balance, which can cause them to fall out of the chair when released. To prevent this, IPC rules encourage archers in this class to be strapped into the chair or use some sort of body support on the chair. Another issue for this group of archers is the limited mobility of their fingers. They usually can't catch the string and have to use a release aid because their fingers aren't strong enough to hold it. The form of release aid used by compound archers is common to most coaches, but it requires more control from the archer than is currently possible. Compound archers need more power from the archer than W1 archers, so most coaches would tailor the release aid to the archer's needs. Standing class. There are both standing and sitting archers in the standing class, which is surprising. Their feet are all on the deck, while wheelchair archers' feet are on the chair's footplate. The coach will conduct their own experiment to see how much more traction they achieve from keeping their feet on the field. Sitting in a chair with your feet on the ground is a good way to aim. Try it again, but this time raise your legs up so that they are spread out in front of you, unsupported, and you'll get a sense of how unsteady you sound. Choosing the correct form of the seat and determining the best height for it are critical for ensuring the archer's best possible shooting posture. Many of the archers in this class may have arm or hand limitations, which can make coaching more difficult because the solutions may necessitate significant changes to the basic shooting style. It may be the drawing arm or the arm that should be holding the bow if an archer is missing an arm. 1. Missing bow arm. The archer in this case will hold the bow with a prosthetic arm. This will need to be secured to the bow in some way, and there are a variety of options for doing so. An arm amputated below the elbow gives the archer a much better sense of what the bow is doing than one amputated at the hip. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, so the coach will have to work with the archer to try out different approaches before they find one that works. 2. There is no drawing arm. The majority of archers in this community choose to draw the string with their teeth while shooting. In the same way that a D-loop on a compound bow is attached to the string, a piece of leather is attached to the string. The archer bites the leather and uses their teeth to pull the string out. Since the leather is easily bitten through, have some spares on hand. The bow arm is bent at the start of the draw and then progressively pulled forward, since it is clearly very little room for the head to move backward in the way that the drawing arm would. It is difficult for archers in this category to pull a heavy bow because the muscles used to draw the bow are different from those used by archers in general. Standing is the most popular shooting position for archers. If their adaptive devices can be fitted for the standing position, adaptive archers who are able can stand. Sitting or wheelchair. Adapted archers who are unable to stand should sit in a chair or use a wheelchair. As they keep the bowstring at full draw, this position provides stability. Braced. If archers have braced support to lean against, they can stand partially upright or completely upright. The archer can need to stay in their wheelchair if they are unable to stand with sufficient stability. Open recurve. This classification can be given to anyone who wants to shoot a recurve bow, but has lower body limitations. Depending on the classification, the recurve bow may be shot from standing, assisted, or wheelchair position. Recurve equipment rules from World Archery apply. Open compound. A person with lower body limitations who wants to shoot a compound bow should be classified as an open compound. Depending on the classification, the compound bow may be shot while standing, assisted, or in a wheelchair. The rules of World Archery compound equipment apply. Archers with communication difficulties. Despite the fact that athletes in this group might be able to shoot in the same manner as able-bodied archers, coaches of archers would have to change their tactics teaching techniques in order to be able to communicate clearly. 1. Archers who are hard of hearing. Various measures may be taken depending on the seriousness of the disorder. An archer who can lip read, for example, would just need to see the coach's tips for the majority of the instruction. Alternatively, precise phrases or directions can need to be written down and accompanied by gestures. The ability of the archer to know when it is safe to shoot and/or collect the arrows is critical from a safety standpoint. If the normally provided audible signal is insufficient, a visual signal may be required. 2. Archers with speech impairment. Many of the same principles apply to the hearing impaired. If the coach has too much difficulty understanding the archer, they may have to bring someone with them who can interpret. Visually impaired archers. Archery for the visually impaired is the same as archery for the sighted. We all aim at a goal with bows and arrows. The difference is that some of us use a different form of sight called a tactile sight since we can't see the target. Once you've learned how to aim and developed a good style, you'll need the following items to help you shoot consistently. 1. Foot locators to keep your feet in the same place during each shot. 2. A sighted assistant, or also known as a spotter, to help you aim safely and tell you where the arrows reach the target. 3. A tactile sight on a tripod to help you line up with the center of the target. Psychology. A coach who works with a group of archers on a constant basis develops a special bond with his or her students. Since the archer is reliant on the coach bears a special obligation. It is the coach's responsibility, among other things, to relieve the athlete of all operational tasks that are unrelated to the primary task of shooting arrows. 1. Motivation. For an athlete to complete the long journey to the highest platform, motivation, or the ability to undertake and abandon activities that do not lead to the desired goal is required. Apart from talent and hard work, encouragement is needed to become a champion. Motivation is often referred to as the killer instinct in competition. Archers have their own motivation. They do it for pleasure, happiness, and pure enjoyment. This is known as intrinsic motivation, and it is a part of the athlete's personality. Extrinsic motivation is derived from the archer's surroundings, such as monetary prize trips to faraway places, status, medals, and so on. For a recreational archer, even a small sum of money to win may be an extrinsic incentive. Another example of extrinsic encouragement is the involvement of spectators or social facilitation. 2. Self-confidence. This is a mental property, is the most significant factor in or intrinsic motivation. In order to gain self-confidence, the athlete must have a consistent record of success. By arranging shooting at a short distance and using a large goal face, the coach manipulates the feeling of achievement. When the coach inspires the archer by providing constructive input, it is extremely beneficial to the archer's self-confidence. Way to go is an example of constructive reinforcement. Wonderful or something along those lines. In a practice scenario, try not to tell the athlete what they are doing wrong as a coach. Make a positive remark on what was done well and assign a task to replicate the exercise with fewer chances of making mistakes. 3. Mental preparation. 3A. Concentration. In archery, the ability to focus always determines the difference between good and bad results. Anything that should be pushed out of the archer's sight as they focus on the mark. 3B. Visualization. This is also a mental rehearsal of the shot is seeing and experiencing oneself doing a professional action. Prior to the actual shot, archers can use visualization in a practice session. Non-relevant mission thoughts are suppressed by visualizing right before a shot. Visualization does not include input comparable to the real shot, such as kinesthetic stimuli or ranking. 4. Goal setting. It takes a long time to reach a high standard of success, and it takes a lot of hard effort from both the archer and the coach. Goals will help you stay motivated and boost your athletic performance as you travel this long path. Many properties are met by good goals. Any of them will be reminded by the acronym SMART. Specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, time-phased, exigent, and recorded are all terms used to describe SMARTer. For A, specific implies that the target is not too broad. Goals such as I will do my best are not specific, they are too wide and therefore ineffective. For B, measurable means that the result, or target accomplishment, can be calculated in the sense that it can be determined whether or not the goal was met. For C, action-oriented implies that the target describes a result of the athlete's actions. The outcome should not be influenced by the results of other rivals. For D, realistic implies that the target is feasible to accomplish. For E, time-phased goals must have reasonable time limits, both short and long range. For F, exigent, goals that are difficult to achieve inspire the archer to work tirelessly to achieve the target. For G, recorded, writing down the target aids the archer in staying focused on it. That's all. Hope that you found and learned something interesting that might you try someday. Have a shot and enjoy archery.